LDS Church to pay $5 million for hiding stock holdings. I think that is very disingenuous. They weren't hiding the assets, but they were making it a little more difficult for people to see all of the holdings.
Hey there YouTube, I'm Forrest, Latter-day Skeptic. In today's video, we're going to be talking about why the Mormon Church has been in the news the past couple days and what people are upset about. I'm going to break it down simply so anyone, including members, can see why the church is in the wrong. Just as a quick summary, the church was recently fined millions of dollars for obscuring its $32 billion investment portfolio. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be a tax expert or understand the intricacies of filing taxes under LLCs or shell companies, and frankly, I'm not interested in any of that. This video won't be about the intricacies of tax filings. I'm interested in the big picture, and I think that's what most people care about.
While acknowledging that it wanted to maintain the privacy of the portfolio. Okay, while it maintained that it wanted to maintain the privacy of the portfolio. Here's the question. Why is that so important? That's what I would want to know. What is the real concern? I get it. I'm a private person. Believe it or not. I don't want my, dirty laundry, everything hanging out in front of the whole public. I want to protect my family. I want to protect information. I want to, I don't want all that out there.
We want privacy! We want privacy! Thanks for having us on the show. It's so awesome to be here. It's great.
So I'm just wondering, what is the motive for all of the privacy? Why try so hard? I can get it. I just would like to know personally what their motivation is. What do they see? Do they see that they need to, are they concerned about the privacy because of lawsuits? Because of people coming after them and shakedowns? And are they concerned about what the members think?
Don't you worry, Greg. I'm here to answer it for you. But make sure you hang around until the end to see what Jesus himself had to say about this issue. And also, please like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. To start off, it's important to understand how seriously the Mormon Church takes the law of tithing. One of the temple recommend questions, which is required to get into the temple to do life-saving ordinances such as marriage and being sealed to your family for eternity, is, are you a full tithe payer? For Mormons, this means 10% of your income. If you're the average household in Utah, you pay $7,000 in tithing per year. And if you don't, you can't go to the temple to be married or sealed to your family. They even have an end of the year tithing audit to make sure that you paid all of your tithing. Of course, they don't call it that. You have to actually go to the bishop and make sure you're all paid on tithing. But if you're poor, rather than paying your tithing, you can use that money to buy food and clothing for your children. Oh wait, no you can't.
If a destitute family is faced with the decision of paying their tithing or eating, they should pay their tithing.
I wonder if Greg is starting to understand why people would be bothered by the church hiding this massive amounts of wealth. But either way, let's go on. So where does this massive amount of tithing money go? Does it go toward bishops that use their time and energy to manage these congregations?
And let's get real. The 99% of the real hard lifting that goes on in the church is done by unpaid bishops. 99% living all over the world, tons of them, and they get paid nothing. Yeah. And they're hated universally by all the people they're trying to help.
That they help the most.
Yes, and people who confess to them. They're maligned by anti-Mormon groups and all these things. These guys get paid nothing. It's a thankless job, and they're doing most of the work, and they get paid nothing. That's why we say we have a lay clergy, because 99.999% of all the work that's done is volunteer.
The church uses unpaid clergy to run most services. Personally, I know bishops are extremely busy. They have to manage the ward on top of their full-time job. Mormons often act as if unpaid clergy is something to brag about. But I think most people would understand if bishops were financially compensated for their time and energy away from their families. I wonder why the church doesn't pay these leaders. Maybe it's because they're spending all their extra cash feeding the poor, helping the needy, and paying for those missionaries that are leaving their homes to spread the gospel.
You're silly if you think I'm not going to send it.
You okay, guys?
Wait, actually, nah. Missionaries actually have to pay for their own missions. Okay, jokes aside, I'm sure that's just because the church wants to have more money to give to the needy. Considering that tithing is tax deductible because it's considered a charitable donation, although I'd argue it's not a donation because it's required, I'm sure the church is spending most of their money on charity, right? Oh, and to keep the lights on and the landscaping done for those great and spacious buildings. Growing up, this was my understanding of how the church spent our tithing. That is until the news broke about the church's $100 billion investment fund. The church has been using this money to invest in stocks, insurance companies, and even a mall in Salt Lake City. In fact, the church gives a very small amount of this money to charity. In 2021, the church paid $908 million to charity, which I'm extremely grateful for. But when looking at the percentage of the $100 billion fund, it's less than 1%. Plus, if this is a well-managed fund, like people keep claiming without any evidence, then this 1% is well below the expected return on investment. But keep in mind, I haven't even included the most important part, which is the annual amount of tithing collected. Analysts estimate that the church receives roughly $6 billion in tithing each year. This means that the church spends less than 17% of its annual tithing on charity. Let's look at these numbers a few other ways to highlight the problem here. Let's assume that the return on investment for the church's fund is 7%. This is considered a standard return on investment. This means that the church is getting $7 billion in return on its $100 billion investment portfolio. If the church stopped receiving tithing tomorrow, it would still have enough money each year to pay $1 billion to charity and grow the portfolio by $6 billion a year. And that's just ROI. We can also look at their gross income using tithing and ROI. With tithing bringing in $6 billion and ROI bringing in $7 billion, this means that the church gets $13 billion of gross annual income. The church only pays 7% of its income to charity. This is less than the 10% required of its members. 93% of these profits goes somewhere other than charity. Remember, this is a church, not a profit-seeking business. Another way we can analyze this is by looking at the charity donations given by other donors. The church is worth $100 billion and gave $908 million to charity. This is less than 1% of its net worth. Elon Musk is worth $195 billion and gave $1.95 billion to charity. This is also roughly 1%. Bill Gates is worth $105.7 billion and gave $5 billion to charity. This is 4.7% of his net worth. Warren Buffett is worth $105.2 billion. He gave $4 billion in charity, which is roughly 3.8% of his net worth. All three of these men donated more to charity than the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, both in relative terms and absolute terms. And most of them had to sell assets to pay for it. Just like the church, their wealth is not always in cash. But what about other charitable organizations? How does the church compare? Check out this list and pay special attention to the efficiency and commitment columns on the right. All of these charities are 80 to 90% efficient with their donations. Remember, the church only uses 7% of its income for charitable purposes. These organizations use 80 to 100%. Greg, are you starting to understand why the church might want to make this information harder to find? In case you aren't convinced by a massively wealthy church financially blackmailing poor people into paying tithing, all under the guise of charity, wasn't bad enough, I think there's one more aspect that'll make the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints look really bad. And it's the words of Jesus Christ himself. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. If you want to be perfect, go sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasures in heaven. Then come follow me. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. It's clear what Jesus thinks about money. And here's a few more bonus verses from the Bible. The love of money is the root of all evil. But Peter said unto him, Thy money perish with thee, because thou hast thought that the gift of God may be purchased with money. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. Whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? Jesus taught that money was a distraction from worshiping God.
All these things I have kept from my youth up. What lack I yet?
Thou wilt be perfect. Go, and sell that thou hast, and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven. And come, and follow me.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has $100 billion and still demands its members pay 10% to enter the temple, and still doesn't pay for missionaries. and still doesn't pay for bishops, and still gives less than 10% to charity. Greg, this is why people get frustrated that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has a $100 billion investment fund that's invested in Apple, Google, insurance companies, and a mall. This is why the church was obviously trying to hide this wealth. The days of us thinking that tithing is going to help feed the hungry or clothe the poor are over. The church has become the great and spacious building. Many wish that the church had even more money.
I want them to have a huge fund. I want it to be bigger. I wish it was 10 times bigger than whatever it is. I trust my money going to them than I do any other charity. I know how efficient they run things. I know the responsibility that they take. Let's build that fund up bigger. I want it as big as can possibly be.
Then go for it. Give more than your 10%. Give more so the church can buy more Apple and Google stock. For the Mormons that thought they were giving their tithing for charitable purposes, I commend you. Giving 10% of your income is not easy. But if you want to follow Christ's teachings, consider donating your money to a real charity, a charity that's efficient and effective with your money. Do thorough research on these companies and make sure that that hard-earned money of yours is actually going to feed the hungry. That's all I've got. I'm Forrest Latter-day Skeptic. Please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.